Welcome everybody to the EpiCast, a live series of conversations with our amazing epic speakers. Today I'm going to invite Bob Williams to talk to us a little bit about is actually a future competency for us all, and also how military leadership can inspire us. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks, Tiago. How are you doing?
I'm marvelous. I'm really excited to have this conversation finally, because we had our Mercury go retrograde when I was in Bordeaux. You remember that? That was really crazy. We couldn't get online.
Too well.
Okay, so I'm going to introduce Bob. Bob is a mechanical engineer. He has an inspiring experience in military, but also in international corporate leadership roles. He's married to Sophia, which is actually the reason why he's living in Portugal for so long. He has a tattoo on his arm, which I'm going to ask you to tell us about a little bit later on. But just before we kick off, I want everybody to know that Bob is a keynote speaker. He goes to companies. He provokes leaders to think about the way that they actually get people to get stuff done the right way. But he's also a renowned coach. He works in the HR space. And we can also have a little conversation about how much that is changing today. So with no further ado, Bob, you have this military experience, and you like to say that military experience is really very, very important to our, contemporary corporate leadership. Can you explain why?
I think there's so many areas where the military has influenced and worked in corporate leadership. When you look on the back of a lot of big policies and standards, you'll normally see a lot of the military agencies there. You really will, because we contribute a lot. Now, military leadership, there's been a lot of failures, a hell of a lot of failures. But along the way, we really have learned how to get the best out of our people. Yeah, and we ask our people to do some really tough things. So it really is the epitome of leadership, to get people who are talented, who have the minds of their own, to do things that they normally wouldn't do, and quite frankly don't want to do. So that's why I really feel that military leadership comes into its own in the corporate space, because it really does drive a cohesiveness and a true sense of team and purpose. And I keynote on In Order To, and how that really brings people up into their unifying purpose. I think
Tell us a little bit about that In Order To, because you talk about commanding, which sounds like very hierarchical, like very top down, very strict, but it's actually quite the opposite.
It is indeed, absolutely. The In Order To is the way of linking what I ask you to do to a unifying purpose, to a higher intent. And by doing that, I remove the fact that I'm being direct and telling you what to do, but I'm opening up all of your experience and knowledge to do something bigger than that. And what I mean by that, and the example that I gave in the Epic Talent Society, was if I ask you to go and get me a plate of tripe now, you go and there's no tripe at the on Uber Eats at the moment, so you come back with nothing.
By tripe, you mean tripas?
Tripas indeed, tripas indeed. But if I tell you to get me a plate of tripas in order to remove my hunger, when there's no tripas, you can look at the menu and you can think about all those beautiful Portuguese dishes, and you can bring me back anything you want, because it will satisfy my hunger. And just by using those three words and connecting them to the unifying purpose, I opened up all of your experience and knowledge in the area of Portuguese cuisine. And I just made you a lot more capable of realizing your full potential. And that's something we use, and it's in all of our language, in all of our mission statements. We use that all the time without without any I've lost my word. Yeah. Any other cause? That's it. We do that all the time.
Because in reality, what you're doing is you're clarifying the mission. You're not telling people what to do specifically. You're just telling them what success looks like. And because the problem is, you're hungry. So, and if you build the criteria, then you leave it to their imagination how they can solve it.
Exactly. And in the military theme, I talk about what my commander's intent is, and we even tell them what their commander's intent is. So it's built upon the premise, and this is the second really strong part of military leadership, is that one of the things we always say is no plan survives contact with the enemy. And it generally doesn't. You can plan everything perfectly, and we're going to go this way, and then the enemy hits you from that side. And you have to be prepared for that. So we always have all of our plans around actions on. But the point is that if I say, attack the person in front of you, you must do that. But then someone comes to the side, people will just stop. We don't know what to do now. But if I say, attack the person in front of you in order to capture the hill over there, then when we're attacked from the side, we sit down, we immediately regroup, and we say, we have to get that hill to our right. So we'll actually ignore the person in front, and we'll go to the hill on the right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's allowing people to say, okay, that absolute order I was given is unattainable, but I can still achieve the order and the intent of the person one up. It's a beautiful way of working, and like I say, it just releases everyone's full potential.
Yeah. So do you find that in Portugal, because in general we're not that brief, do you think it's harder for us to lead? Because you once said something to the effect like, brevity is key to leadership.
This is a great question now, because now I have to live up to it for the rest of this discussion, and every answer is just going to be very short. but yeah, brevity is key, and it's something that is absolutely rammed into us while we're going through our training. And the point of that is, and it comes down to Einstein, that Einstein said that anyone can make something complex. It takes real genius to make it simple. So by making sure that everything you discuss from a leadership perspective is brief, you have to make it simple. You have to make it clear and concise as to what you can do. And that actually corrects a lot of the thought process in your mind as you go through. So that's where I think it really is powerful. And yes, I love the Portuguese with all my heart, but wow, you can talk.
Yeah, we have like multiple excuses for saying exactly the same thing with different words, and just making it a little bit more complex by adding more and more words to it. Isn't that true? So yeah, I was reading a book recently. It's called Extreme Ownership. I don't know if you know it, by Jocko Willink. And
yeah,
the book is very much around these 12 principles, but the main idea is that there are no bad teams. It's just bad leadership, because leaders have to assume, they have to take full responsibility. What would you say about that? Is that something you found in the military? Is this true for companies as well?
What 100%. From a military perspective, the motto of the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst, which is where all the British Army officers go to be trained, is serve to lead. And I went through in 1998, all those years ago, and servant leadership wasn't a fashion at that particular point, but it was there, and that motto's been there for over 200 years. But truly, when you are there to lead, you're there to serve the people below you, to help them be successful. And I truly believe in it. I think it is absolutely, the way forward. We're put into leadership positions because we have a talent and an experience, and it is our responsibility to make sure that we bestow that experience to allow people to become better below us. And for me, it really is as simple as that. So yes, when it comes down to things, when they go right, it's obviously a team success. But when things go wrong, the leader has to look inwards and say, did I do enough to make sure that was successful?
Mm-hmm.
And if it was someone who was malicious, what did I do wrong to allow that kind of person into our team to do that?
Mm-hmm.
If someone just unintentionally messed up, what did I do wrong to allow that kind of risk to enter into our team? And you have to reflect on that personally, because because you put that together and you let it through. So yeah, I agree 100% with what Jacko wrote in his book there.
I think that in Portugal, the word responsibility, responsabilidade, has too much weight to it because, one time I was talking to a coach who actually said it's actually quite interesting when you think about the word responsibility. It actually means the ability to respond, but it does not mean that you have to be the author of how you respond. Sometimes the best ideas are just in your team,
Yeah.
and the only thing that you have to do is find and decide. So it isn't actually like cinemas for guilt or for bad intent. It's just like you could actually be a lot lighter if you understood that you're just in a privileged position where you get to find the answers and they don't have to be yours. So I think there's a lot to be told of and said about responsibility. It's not just like such a burden, but I do think that, a lot of what I hear, I don't know what your opinion is on this, but a lot of what I hear is corporate leaders always complain about the same thing. They complain about the lack of time.
Yeah.
And the way that they use time is very much like they copycat each other. So they're always busy. And, sometimes it just falls on me that they actually have the responsibility to manage a very precious asset, which is time. And they don't have to always be actually doing something or being occupied. A lot of their time should be actually about self-reflection, right? Like sorting out for yourself what you need to do, going back into the scenario. And even in the military, I was curious to ask you, I heard about these after action reviews where actually you can discuss the situation without actually looking for a culprit, and you go through the process to see what went wrong so that you can avoid it, but not, in search of a culprit. Did you have any of that experience? Is that a protocol that you used?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's something we do all the time. And if you don't mind me just deviating ever so slightly away from that,
Sure.
we have the pre-action reviews as well. And it's something you'll see in a lot of military books where they talk about red teaming, which is I put together a plan and then we put together a team of people to break that plan. So really, people are coming at you and they're saying that won't work because of this. That won't work because of this. But it gives you the chance to put the controls in place that they've picked up. And this is something that, certainly corporate businesses cannot get their heads around, that you literally bring people in to challenge something. But I'm sure you've seen in your experience how many projects were planned and fell over immediately for things that could have been foreseen. And it's when you allow young, energetic people to come in and challenge the leader's plan and really, go hard at it. It's phenomenal, the respect that's built and the new ideas that come in as well. So we do have the post-action reviews, and they are very, very thorough. And sometimes, there are areas of root cause that are found, but they are reduced a hell of a lot because of the pre-action reviews where you literally say, come here and break my plan.
So I'm curious about your international experience. You went through a whole lot of different roles, not only in learning, but obviously as a leader in the responsibility of the capability of learning in so many countries and in different corporates. Do you have any stories to tell about singular and very special protocols that you found at a certain company? Because these examples, they tend to come from the military. I don't actually find them so often in companies. Did you find the opposite? Did you ever work at a company where they had a great protocol that you could have just stolen away or imported, or maybe even listing, but actually put in place?
Now, I gave away when I was in the military, and I take away a lot of the leadership from the military. I think in every company I've been to since, it's data, is the protocol, and it's really going hard in on the data, and how that really can influence decisions, make decisions, and really show trends and almost give that foresight into what might be coming. And obviously that was something we didn't have in the army in 1988. When I was in my first regiment, we had no computers. And and later on, you know, about 4 years in, 3 people in the whole regiment of 600 people had a computer. So, you know, this is how far back we're going, you know. But like I say, you know, now as I look at leadership going forward, the getting that level of using data to data paralysis and finding that balance where you're really understanding what the business is doing and how you can really tweak the business to you know, to do amazing things, I think is the protocol that I think I've seen develop in all the businesses that I've gone through.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that. Do you see leadership style differences in, you know, the clients that you work with, which are Portuguese or foreign? And if so, please let me have some fun answering by answering.
I do, and you know, and I'll lump Portugal in with, you know, with Southern Europe, yeah. Because, you know, my experience is Portugal, Spain, Italy, and, you know, a little bit in Greece as well. And what I would say about, you know, those Southern European countries is that the hierarchy is really far more ingrained than it is in the UK. Yeah, in the UK you have a lot more access to leaders, to the leaders of those leaders, and to things like that. And the speed of knowledge going up is far faster in probably only one far, not far, just far faster in the UK as you go slightly further north or whatever. And when I talk about knowledge going up, I'm talking about that experience of the younger, you know, fresh-faced, you know, person in the organization who has the ideas, who has the, you know, our digital natives are, you know, used to using Gen AI and seeing that information, those ideas going up faster than they do generally in Southern European countries, where it's still, you know, the knowledge and the power is still very much at the top.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying that the power is a little bit more distributed in Anglo-Saxonic cultures, maybe?
More humble, I would say, to you know, to listen to what's coming up. Yeah. But yes, distributed as well, but perhaps a little bit more humble in seeing what's coming up, and much more playing that role of the leadership of facilitator rather than decision maker extreme.
You talked a little bit about, you know, the young leaders that are actually surfacing. If you were starting out today, what advice would you give yourself?
I would say that, Bob, your success is your team's success. And if you focus on everyone in your team being ridiculously successful, then your success is absolutely guaranteed.
Mm-hmm. And it takes quite a while to figure that one out, doesn't it?
It does. You get promoted, you get full of yourself, you think that, you know, you've got to rule the world and everything. But if you can have a team working for you that's working at their full potential, then you are the greatest leader on the planet.
Yeah. So I have one more question. I'm going to complicate it towards the end because I love the conversation we had a way back about private equity and what's happening in the world. But I read this book. I just want to share that with you because it makes so much sense for me now. I was once given a book called Egomaniac, and the book was actually very interesting because it said, you know, getting to a position where you actually are in responsibility for a team depends on your ego. So you need it because it all depends on you and what you want and what you chase. But the minute you have the responsibility for a team, it's no longer about you. It has nothing to do with you. So it's actually like, you know, a flip of the coin, and most people don't realize it. So they use the same formula after they do have a team. So I think maybe that's also, you know, something people should realize, which is obviously if you don't have a team, you can't just go in and start leading. There are people who say that leadership is just influencing people positively. You don't have to have control over them or any type of power or hierarchy. But I tend to think that in the corporate world, you have to first get results, then you get responsibility, and then you realize that it's not about you, it's about others. So I think that was interesting. A couple of months ago, you shared this idea with me, which I found was quite amazing, which was to have HR as a service, or maybe like a little bit of like a squad team to go in and help companies that are actually bought by VCs to actually turn around. And the conversation here was the VC market was drying out. Companies were actually shifting their 3-year investment period to 5. And the way that companies buy into other companies and make the magic shifts if you have 5 years to do it or 3. 3 years you can do it out of cosmetics, but 5 you really have to touch into the people base. And you had some great ideas about that. Could you pitch me about that?
Sure, absolutely. This could send this cast to 2 or 3 hours, but yeah, with the hold periods in private equity and VC getting longer, they absolutely need a trajectory that is sustainable. And like you say, cosmetics. It's more refinancing and restructuring are very short-term things, and the value of those can run out quite quickly. That's why they've always tried to sell them on quickly. But when you're in for a long time, you really have to look at what other levers you can pull, and that has to be sustainable. And really the only way to make a business absolutely sustainable is to have its people thriving. And the people in that business who are running that business, who are selling the business, who are building the widgets, who are programming the tech, all have to be thriving. And it changes the viewpoint on that business absolutely enormously. So yes, the idea is to really go in and look directly at the value that needs to be created that is linked to a very, very inspiring vision for that company. And then when you've got that value, making sure that everyone is contributing to that value in whatever way they do, whether it be one down from the C-suite, 2, 3, 4, 5 levels down, they can all see how they're contributing. And then when you've got that model, you can see who's contributing well, who's not contributing well, but then you can also really start looking at the future and what the future value looks like, and that defines your development program. And then when you start developing people to contribute to the future as well as to the present, then those people feel like they're on a journey with you. Mm-hmm. And while we're in this war for talent that is really tough for absolutely everyone, if you can make the good talent you've got stay that little bit longer, and it's not guaranteed, but if you can make it stay that little bit longer, then you're on an absolute winning formula. And I truly feel that the way to do that is to hook people into how they are going to create the future value of your company, not just today's. So yeah, I just love it. I get ridiculously passionate about it. That
I know.
We could really push people along and take them on a journey that they will truly enjoy.
Good. So I connect 2 things from you: leading and learning, because you did a lot of learning jobs at multinational companies, and I always think, at least this is my my sense of it, people stay as long as they are learning. When they stop learning, they leave. They don't leave for money. So I think if anybody wants to have a good perspective on leadership and on learning, Bob's the guy. You want to finish off with a special phrase or call to action, or maybe just share what you have tattooed on your arm?
I'll finish one thing that I read recently that is it's deep, but I think it's a complete game changer. And on all of these employee engagement surveys, do you trust the leadership? Do you this and this? One question: are you a better human being since joining this company? And rate that from 1 to 10, where 10 is I am an exceptionally better human being, and 0 is I am worse for working at this company. Now, when you get that back and you average it out amongst the departments, and if you could just shift that needle one place, in the positive direction, the impact that would have on any business. And as I say, it's a deep question, But really, it goes to your point of when you stop learning, you stop developing. But if you get into that scenario where you are, as a company, making people better humans and better people because they work with you, then you have absolutely nailed it.
I love that.
What's written on the arm is in Italian, because I had it done while I was in Italy. L'onore è semplicemente la moralità degli uomini superiori. Honor is simply the morality of the superior man. It was just a big military hang-up when I was there. I still love it. It's an absolutely beautiful quote. But yeah,
Fits you well, Bob.
I love it. Thank you very much, Thiago. I really appreciate it.
It was a great pleasure. Thank you so much. I hope I see you soon on a stage near me.
Likewise. But even sooner for a coffee, I hope.
That's for sure. Here you go.
Take care.
See you soon, Bob. Thank you so much.
Cheers, Thiago. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. Bye.
Okay.